Hello everyone, Ryan Baxter here, and I'm a developer advocate for Bluemix at IBM. And I'm back again with another video about Bluemix, and this time I'm going to be talking about Watson and Node-RED. A couple of weeks ago, my colleague James Thomas had developed a bunch of nodes for Node-RED that encompassed most of the services that we have to offer from Watson and Bluemix, allowing you to easily use them within your Node-RED development environments. And today I'd like to show you a quick example of how easy it is to use those services to basically create a REST API that translates text from one language to another. So the first thing I'm going to go do is go to our catalog. And what I want to do is get up a Node-RED instance. So you can easily do that by just selecting the Node-RED starter at the bottom here from the boilerplate section. And you need to just go ahead and give this a name. So we're going to give it a name. We're going to call it Watson Node-RED. And we'll click Create, and Bluemix will go ahead and spin up an instance of Node-RED for us to use. Okay, after our app is finished staging, let's go back to the overview section of our application. And we're going to need a Watson machine translation service bound to our application before we can actually use it within our Node-RED flows. So let's go ahead and click Add a Service or API. And we are going to select the machine translation service. And we'll just go ahead and click Create here and bind it to our application. And we also need to restage the application as well so that Node-RED knows about the machine translation service. Okay, after our application is finished restaging, let's go ahead and open up our app. We're brought to the welcome page here in the Node-RED application, and then you can just click this button here to go to your Node-RED flow editor. Once you're here at your Node-RED flow editor, what we're basically going to do is create a REST API that accepts post requests containing some text and the languages we want to translate from and to, and then have it passed into the machine translation service, and then have the output machine translation service be sent to the response of the HTTP request. So the first thing we need to do is add an HTTP input node to our flow here. And we're just going to configure this very simply by double-clicking it. We're going to select the post method, and our endpoint is going to be /translate. So when a request comes into this translate endpoint, what we're going to need to do is actually pass the information from that into the machine translation service. So the Watson nodes are all listed at the bottom here. And you can take the machine translation node and drag it onto your flow here, onto your editor. And you'll see that in the info tab that basically the text to translate needs to be in the message.payload property, and then the language that you want to translate to and from needs to be in the message.lang property. So we're going to have to do a little bit of work here in a function node to make sure that we have this property set properly based on the input from the post body from the post request. So let's drag and drop a function node onto the sheet as well. So we're going to drag and drop the function node and just reposition these slightly here. And then what we're going to do is open up this function node, and basically we want to set message.payload, right? That's going to be the text that we want to translate. So we're going to set that equal to the property of message.request.body.text. So the message object contains the HTTP request that was sent in, and we can access the body of that request. And then that body is going to be a JSON object that contains a property called text. That's going to be the text we want to translate. And then we want message.lang, which is the language information about what language we're translating from and to be set to message.request.body.lang. And again, our HTTP post request is going to be a JSON object, so in the body is going to have a lang property. So pretty simple stuff there. And then we can just click OK to that. So now we'll connect these all together here. And then the last step is to just supply an HTTP response node, which again is just a matter of going to the output section and dragging and dropping that onto the sheet, and then just connecting everything up here. So basically what we have is a post request coming in, which will contain a JSON object with two properties, a TXT property and a lang property. We'll set the proper values to the message.payload and message.lang properties. It will use the machine translation service to translate that text and then respond back to us with the translated text. So that's it for the flow in Node-RED. Now the one thing you might be asking yourself is, what about this message.lang property? How do I know what values to set here? Well, that's actually all contained in the documentation. So if we go to the machine translation service here in Bluemix, and we go to the documentation, the best place to look at this is in the API reference documentation here, so we can see the actual REST APIs being used. So in the machine translation REST API, it actually takes these values for the languages that you want to translate from. So say we want to translate from United States English to Spanish. We can use this value, mt-enus-esses. So what we'll do in our REST API, so if we construct our post request to our Node-RED flow now, so we can use any REST client you want. In this case, I'll just use the REST client built into Firefox here. We're going to make a post request. It's going to be made to our Node-RED flow at the /translate endpoint. So I'm just going to copy the URL here from my Node-RED instance. I'll paste it in here. It's going to be /translate. Okay. And we're going to construct the post body here. So we're going to create a JSON object that has a lang property, right? And again, we want it to be the value is going to be this, so it's mt-enus, mt-enus -ESES. And again, you could choose any other value you want here, right? So any other language you want. And the text we want to translate here, let's come up with some popular text to translate. So let's just say text is hello world. Now we want to translate hello world to Spanish, from English to Spanish. Last thing we want to do is make sure we have the proper content type header so that we're sending application JSON here along. So we're going to add that content type header. And if we send this, you see we get a response back with a 200. You look at the body and it says Hola Mundo, so hello world. That translates to English. But if we want to translate another famous quote here, say, one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. I think that's the exact quote. It may not be, but you get the idea. If I click send, again, we get the Spanish translation for that quote back to us. So that's how easy it is to leverage the Watson services from Node-RED. Again, 4 simple nodes. We didn't really write any code, and we have a REST endpoint that will do translation from any of the supported language from Watson, and we can hit that REST endpoint and get back the translated text. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video.